Okay, hello everyone. Thanks for joining me for this video. I'm going to say up front, there's not going to be any gameplay in this video. We are solely going to be looking at the Prussian units for Master of Command, and we're going to be looking at what they're good at, where they probably fit in your army, and some interesting little nuances to each unit. I also want to point out that if you hear birds chirping or anything like that in the background, it's because I have Master of Command running and I'm capturing the audio from it and thought it'd be kind of like nice little background noise while I'm just kind of talking at you for a while. So first of all, I want to point out that I've got this Excel document. I went ahead and I put all of the Prussian units in here, and as well as all of their stats and their the veterancy required to make it to that unit. Not to make it there as a whole. For example, for the Prussian horse artillery, it costs 4 to go from field artillery to horse artillery. And so that's what this number here is. It's seeing what is the next step in going from field to horse, and that is a 4 veterancy cost. Uh, Cumulatively, it's going to be a lot more, right? Because you're looking at 4, 4, 3. That's going to be 11 veterancy total uh, to go from the cantonist recruit all the way to horse artillery. Uh, One other thing I want to point out that I would have liked to have had in the spreadsheet is the taller cost of each unit, but I just really didn't want to load into the game and run around going to towns looking for how much each unit would cost. I feel like that would have helped a lot looking at this spreadsheet, but uh, I just wasn't sure how long that was going to take, and I wanted to at least make a video comparing the stat values on each unit, even if we're not really looking at their the like value of each unit. So first off, I want to start off by saying that each or there are two main Prussian unit trees. There's the Cantonist tree and then the Freikorps tree. And generally speaking, there are some trends that are going to hold true for both of them. Number one, the Freikorps are going to tend to be smaller. They're going to tend to have higher reload. They're going to tend to be better in melee and charge, and uh, they will be a little bit cheaper usually to reach their veterancy requirements. However, the one caveat to that is that the Freikorps units usually have a lower ceiling than do the Cantonist units. So for example, I've got tiers here to mark um, where a unit appears in the Prussian unit tree. And so everything that's tier 1, that is like one upgrade from either a Freikorps recruit or a Cantonist recruit. Here we've got the Prussian veteran musketeers. That's of course 2 upgrades from the recruit level. Lifeguards are 3 upgrades away. And so that's kind of how I've organized this is we've got recruits at the very beginning, and then I did all of our line infantry, I did light infantry, our heavy grenadier type infantry went into cavalry here, and then artillery last. Um, and anyway, like I was saying, the Freikorps units do not go as deep in the tree as do the Cantonist units. So, for example, we've got tier 3 Prussian lifeguards, tier 3 Prussian veteran grenadiers, but you're going to see that none of the Freikorps units get to level 3. At a maximum, they will only go to tier 2. Uh, and like I was saying, it kind of lowers their ceiling for stats, but they can usually get there quicker. So I'll be pointing that out where it's relevant. So, oh, I think I also forgot to mention that Freikorps units will tend to have lower morale. So let's just go ahead and compare the Cantonists to the Freikorps. Uh, so the Cantonists are going to have more morale, more units. They're not going to be as good at reloading. and they're not going to be in melee because their charge is lower, melee's lower. They also have less stamina and lower speed. So basically, the Freikorps recruits are, I would say they are generally speaking a better unit than the Cantonists. The caveats being they've got lower morale, so they'll break easier, and they've got a lower unit count. So, so you have to keep that in mind that that lower unit count may affect their usefulness at some points. Next, we're going to go into the tier 1 line infantry. And so first up, we've got the free infantry fusiliers. These are kind of like a mix between line infantry and light infantry, skirmisher type infantry. And if I remember correctly, they can use the open order skirmisher formation as well as a line formation. So they can kind of serve in either of those roles. However, they are going to have a much lower unit count than other line infantry. You will note that they have the best accuracy of all the line infantry units. Their reload is nothing to write home about, and they have pretty terrible melee, but they have decent stamina and good speed. And you're going to need 3 points of veterancy to get to them, so that's not too much of an investment, a time investment to get to the Fry Infantry Fusiliers. So if you just want a unit that is going to be a little bit more accurate but smaller, not getting into melee, I think the Fry Infantry Fusiliers are going to be for you. And then, of course, later on, they're going to upgrade into the Fry Infantry Jaegers. Sorry, guys, my throat's bothering me a little bit. Next, we're going to take a look at the Musketeers. So Prussian Musketeers have got really good morale for line infantry of their tier. They've got among the most unit count. Their accuracy is pretty decent. Reload is pretty average for line infantry. Their melee stats are actually not super great. Like the melee is decent. Their charge bonus is not very great, but they've got fairly decent stamina and they're moderately speedy. Probably the biggest drawback is that you're gonna have to get 4 points of veterancy in order to upgrade them. So, or I mean, what I mean is you're gonna need 4 points of veterancy in order to get here, and so they are going to be recruits longer than any of these other line infantry. Next, we've got the Prussian Landmilice, which are kind of like a militia unit, and they're going to have the lowest morale of the line infantry. They're decent on unit count. They have the worst accuracy. The reload is fine. They have pretty good charge for line infantry, but their melee isn't good. So you're gonna do a lot of damage up front with them, but then they're not gonna do as well in the fight afterwards. And they have the worst stamina. They have the worst speed. Their one saving grace is that it only takes 2 points of veterancy to get from Cantonist recruit to Landmilice, and so that means that your stats are going to be better because if you compare them to the Cantonist recruits, of course they've got better reload, better charge, better melee. So these are just about in every way better than your Cantonist recruits. But of course, they're generally not going to be as good as the Prussian Musketeers. But you're getting them much sooner. And I actually have something kind of interesting that I want to talk more about the Landmilice line later on. Okay, Freikorps Musketeers. This is going to come out of the Freikorps unit tree. And these guys have average morale for line infantry. They have a little bit of a lower unit count. Their accuracy is kind of middle of the road. Their reload is higher, so these guys are going to be getting off more volleys than the other line infantry. They also have the best melee stats. So if you want a line infantry unit that can go into melee and do a lot of damage, the Freikorps Musketeers are going to be good for that. Stamina is really good, and their speed is among the top for line infantry of their tier. and you're only going to need 3 points of veterancy to get to the Freikorps Musketeers, whereas if you hold out for the Prussian Musketeers, you're going to need a whole nother level of veterancy. And then next we've got the Prussian Veteran Musketeers. These, of course, will upgrade out of the normal Prussian Musketeers. And these guys are just, I think you're going to get a boost in just about everything. The morale is higher, accuracy is higher, reload's higher, charge is the same, melee is the same, stamina, speed is better. So basically, you're getting better shooting stats for sure. You're getting better morale, and they're going to be faster. Melee, they're still not going to be that great. So if you want a strong melee unit, veteran musketeers are not going to really do it for you. You're going to have to wait for the Prussian lifeguards. These guys are going to have better morale. They're going to have better reload. And here's where their melee stats really get a nice bump. So you got 30 charge, 25 melee. These guys are going to be good. They're finally matching the Freikorps Musketeers. Only drawback here is you're going to need 6 veterancy to get up to lifeguards, and that's going to take you a while. So as you can see, this is a pretty deep line to go down, right? Because you're going to need 4 veterancy here, 5 veterancy here, 6 veterancy here. So total, you're going to need 11, 6. You're going to need 17 veterancy to get to lifeguards. And as you can see, like their melee stats are equal to the Freikorps Musketeers. If you just want a line infantry unit that can dish it out early, you can just put 3 points of veterancy into your Freikorps Musketeers. You don't have to wait for 17 points of veterancy here. Just pointing that out, that this is kind of like an interesting point where the Freikorps Musketeers are just, for line infantry, very good in melee. But of course, they're going to have much lower morale, and their firing stats aren't going to be as great. So just one of those things to keep in mind. Next, we're going to move over to the light infantry. So we've got the Frey Infantry Jaegers, which upgrade out of the Frey Infantry Fusiliers. And we're going to compare, morale's the same. They've got fewer units, but they get better accuracy. They get a much better reload. Their charge goes down. Melee is the same. But stamina and speed both get a nice little bump. So, of course, these guys, you don't want them going into melee. You want them sitting back. You want them shooting. That is what they're there for. They also have a small unit count, so they are very much going to suffer in melee. The Freikorps Jaegers are going to upgrade out of the Freikorps Musketeers, and here you're getting a slight morale decrease. You're taking a big hit when it comes to unit count, and your accuracy is not going to get any better, but your reload gets a lot better. So these guys are just going to be pumping out shots like crazy. They also have okay melee stats. So if they do get into melee with like a recruit unit, they can actually hold their own. They'll probably still lose just because of the unit count, but they can hold their own for a little bit. Much better than the Frey Infantry Jaegers. They're also going to have better stamina and better speed. So, and that was, of course, me comparing them to the Freikorps Musketeers. If we compare the 2 Jaeger units to each other, you're getting more accuracy out of the Frey Infantry Jaegers and the Freikorps, or the Freikorps, excuse me. They're going to be much more focused on reload, and then they're going to have better speed, better stamina. So this will kind of let them. This will let them stay in the fight longer without getting tired, but they're going to go through their ammunition pretty quickly with this high reload. The other thing I'll point out is that the Freikorps Jaegers take more veterancy to get to than the Frey Infantry Jaegers, so you're going to be able to get these guys sooner. As for which one is better, I'll leave that to your determination. If you want a good fire unit, I think the Frey Infantry Jaegers are going to be your pick. If you kind of want a more well-rounded skirmisher unit, it's going to be the Freikorps Jaegers. But at the same time, if you're going into skirmisher light infantry, I don't know why you would want it to be more well-rounded. You would probably want it to specialize in the uh, the stats that are important for firing. Next, we're going to go into our heavy infantry and the grenadier type units. So first off, we've got the Prussian Grenadiers. They're going to have really high morale. They're going to have 1,200 unit costs, and I want to compare them to the Prussian Musketeers. I'll see if I can get them both on the same screen. There we go. Because the Prussian Grenadiers are going to come out of the Prussian Musketeers, so your unit count goes down, your accuracy goes up here, as well as your reload. And I forgot to mention, this is good. You're having a higher reload stat means that you will reload faster. Charge is going to be much higher. Melee is going to be a bit higher. You're going to have the same stamina, but you are going to have better speed. A big drawback, though, is that you're waiting for 6 points of veterancy to get your Prussian Grenadiers. So that's definitely something you want to keep in mind. However, the Grenadiers are going to be an upgrade over the Prussian Musketeers in just about every way. I think, yeah, almost every stat gets better with the exception of stamina and their unit count. So this is just going to be an upgrade all around, and going to be really good at mixing it up in melee. Next, I want to point out the Prussian Fusiliers. These are going to upgrade out of the Landmilies, and so they kind of maintain this this trend of being a low morale unit, but their unit count goes down, but they're going to have better accuracy. Their reload will be the same. Their charge is better. Their melee is better. Stamina is the same, and speed is going to be a little bit better. And you're getting all that for 2 points of veterancy. I want to come back to this later when we compare the Prussian Grenadiers and the Prussian Fusiliers, because I think there is something very interesting to be noted here. And next we've got the Freikorps Grenadiers that are coming out of the Freikorps Musketeers. And so as you can see, morale is going to be better. You're going to take a hit when it comes to unit count. You're also going to take a hit on your accuracy, but you're going to get a little boost to reload. Your melee stats are going to be better, especially your charge. Stamina takes a little hit. You get a bump to speed though. And so this one is kind of like a mixed bag of differences compared to the Freikorps Musketeers. But as you can see, we've got really good melee stats here. And so I am going to use that to compare our Grenadier units to each other. So with that being said, your Prussian Grenadiers, these are going to be better at firing. These are going to be better in the line shooting than the other Grenadier units. As you can see, their melee stats are not quite as good as the Freikorps Grenadiers. They are, of course, better than the Prussian Fusiliers, but I'm going to come back to that in a minute. Their stamina is lower than the Freikorps Grenadiers, as is their speed. So, with that being said, the Prussian Grenadiers, these are going to be better in a firefight. Your Freikorps Grenadiers, these are going to be better in melee, generally speaking. The only caveats to that are they're going to have lower morale than the Prussian Grenadiers, and they're going to have a lower unit count. So these two factors should be taken into consideration, but their melee stats are really good. So I think if you want a unit that can just throw itself into an enemy unit, this is going to be it for you. Your Prussian Grenadiers, these are going to be more well balanced, right? So maybe you have the Prussian Grenadiers firing, and then you see an opening and you charge. Your Freikorps Grenadiers, I think that these are going to be the guys where you go up, you take your one shot, and then you run in just because their accuracy is not great. Reload's really good. I'll give them that. But accuracy's not great. You don't want them standing there in a prolonged firefight. I think they're going to get taken out, especially with this low unit size. You want to go in, take your shot, and get them into melee immediately, and get that other unit routing. And then while we're talking about the Prussian Grenadier and Freikorps Grenadier comparison, I want to note that to get to Freikorps Grenadiers, it's going to take 7 veterancy total. And to get to Prussian Grenadiers, it's going to take 10 veterancy total. So you're going to be able to get to Freikorps Grenadiers much sooner than the Prussian Grenadiers. And on the note of getting to a unit sooner, I want to point out that even though the Prussian Fusilier is worse in every respect compared to the Prussian Grenadier, something that's worth noting is that it only takes 4 points of veterancy to get here. So if you've got your your Cantonist recruit, you go Prussian Landmilice, that's 2 veterancy, and then you go Prussian Fusilier, that's 4 veterancy. And for 4 veterancy, you get a knockoff Grenadier. You get a cheap, low quality Grenadier. And I think that in some situations, that's going to be worth it. So, for example, let's say you were getting ready for the headquarters battle, but you don't have much time. Uh, if you do the Cantonist recruit, if you buy a Cantonist recruit and you're trying to upgrade him to Prussian Musketeer, you're going to need 4 veterancy to get there. Okay, and these are the stats that you're going to get. You could go for, hold on, let me see if I can get them in the same. There we go. You could go for the Prussian Fusilier, and what's going to be better? Your morale is worse. Your unit count is worse. Accuracy and reload are equal, but here's where it gets better. You have better charge. You have equal melee. Stamina is worse, and speed is about equal. But the Prussian Fusiliers are going to be a unit that you can throw into a melee, and they're going to perform better, especially on the charge. Maybe not in the melee per se, because they have equal melee, slightly lower stamina, but on the charge, they're going to do a lot of damage. So I think that this is something worth considering if you don't have much time. The other thing I'll point out is that for every level you gain in veterancy, it gets harder to get to the next level. And so what I mean by that is going from level 1, I think getting to level 1 veterancy, I believe it's 850 experience. Getting to level 2 is 1,150. Level 3, I believe, is 1,500, something like that. It's going to get harder to get to level 4 veterancy, whereas if you just need to get to 2, and then you go back down to 0, and then you need to get to 2 again, you're going to be able to get there faster than trying to go straight to 4 veterancy. And so, with that being said, what I'm trying to say here is the Prussian Fusiliers, they don't look good on paper, but you can get to them pretty quickly, and then you have a knockoff Grenadier unit that you can take and throw into the melee. And once they get to 6 veterancy, you can swap them out for Prussian Grenadiers. You can upgrade them, and you are getting a boost in every stat, and it doesn't take as long to get to the Fusilier as it does to get to the Prussian Musketeer. So that's something worth considering. And so to just go over this again, my thoughts are Prussian Grenadier. You've got a well-balanced unit that's pretty good at shooting and pretty good in melee. Your Prussian Fusiliers are going to be your knockoff Grenadiers, where you might want to go down this route if you don't have much time before a major battle, but you want to have a decent unit. And then your Freikorps Grenadiers are kind of going to be your like smaller elite melee Grenadiers. Not elite when it comes to shooting, but definitely elite when it comes to melee. And lastly, I'll point out that the Prussian veteran Grenadiers these guys are just beasts, and they're going to be better in every way compared to the Prussian Grenadiers. Morale's the same, right? But your unit count goes up to 1,400 again, same as the line infantry. Your reload is better, charge and melee are better, Stamina's better. These guys are going to be good. And so one thing I want to point out here is your Grenadiers, you're going to want to use mostly for melee, and then your line infantry you're going to use mostly for just shooting it out with the other side. And I'll let you decide how you guys want to use that information. Usually what I'm trying to do is I'm going to put my more melee focused units on the flanks, and I want to crush the flank and then try to roll down the rest of the line. But if you guys want to try to take your melee units and put them in the center of the battle and go through the center, it's up to you. I'm not going to get into that. I'm just giving you the information and use it how you will. So now let's take a look at our two provincial cavalries. We've got the Prussian provincial cavalry and the Freikorps provincial cavalry. We're going to see some of the same trends hold between the Prussian and Freikorps unit trees. Prussians are going to have better morale. They're going to have lower reload, and they're not going to be as good in melee. At least when it comes to charge, it's lower. Melee's equal, but stamina and speed are lower. It's also going to take more veterancy to go from a Cantonist recruit to a Prussian provincial cavalry compared to a Freikorps recruit only needing 3 to get to the Freikorps provincial cavalry. So let's go ahead and compare them. Lower morale, but a higher reload, which is really interesting. So the Freikorps provincial cavalry can kind of function as like a light dragoon unit. They're, as I pointed out, they're going to be better on the charge, equal in melee. Stamina is important though. It's going to take them longer to get tired, and so they will outperform the Prussian provincial cavalry in melee because of that stamina. They're also faster, so they can get around the battlefield, and it's only going to take 3 points of veterancy to get to the Freikorps provincial cavalry. So with that being said, I think you're going to be, if you want to go for cavalry, the Freikorps provincial cavalry is going to be better in almost every way, or equal or better to the Prussian provincial cavalry, if we're just looking at the tier 1 cavalry. Where it gets a little bit more nuanced is once we go into the tier 2 cavalry. So first of all, we've got the Prussian Hussars that come out of the Prussian provincial cavalry. These are going to have better morale compared to the provincial cavalry. They're going to have better accuracy, better reload, better charge, better melee, better stamina. These guys are just going to be an upgrade all around. They're going to be really fast. So you're going to want to use them to get around the battlefield really quickly and take advantage of opportunities that might not last forever. Your Prussian Dragoons are going more towards the heavy cavalry route for Prussia, because eventually they will turn into Cuirassiers. We'll get there in a minute. They're going to have lower, or they're going to be better than the provincial cavalry in just about every way. Some important notes are your unit count increases here. You're going up 200 units. That is a 50% unit increase, which is kind of insane. I think it's really good. These guys are notably going to have really good accuracy and reload stats. So give these guys a carbine, they are going to be able to use it really well. They're going to have better charge than the provincial cavalry, but they're not going to have better melee. They will have better stamina, and they're equal in speed. So what does that mean for dragoons? It means that these guys are going to be a little bit better than provincial cavalry, the Prussian provincial cavalry. However, it's not going to be a massive increase in melee combat ability. So just keep that in mind, that your Prussian dragoons are kind of glorified Prussian provincial cavalry. Their one really good point being that they have more units, and so that should mean that they're able to dish out more damage because they're getting more units into the fight. But don't think that these guys are going to be like uber melee champions. The stats don't really show that. Lastly, we've got here the Freikorps Hussars. These, of course, will come from the Freikorps Provincial Cavalry. You're going to have much better morale. You're going to have the same unit count stat. Accuracy will be the same. Reload will be a little better. Charge is better. Melee is better. Stamina is noticeably better, as well as speed. However, it's going to take you 6 veterancy to get to Freikorps Hussars. With that being said, I want to compare the two Hussar units because, generally speaking, these are going to be better than the Dragoons, in my opinion. At tier 2, your Hussar units are going to be better. So let's take a look at the two Hussar units and see how they compare. Number one, your Prussian Hussars, they're going to have better morale. They're also going to have a little bit better accuracy. The reload is not going to be as good. Charge, not going to be as good. Melee, they're equal. Stamina and speed, they're not as good as the Freikorps Hussars. But it only takes 5 veterancy to get to a Prussian Hussar versus 6 veterancy for a Freikorps Hussar. So, what does all this mean? What conclusions can we draw from it? Your Prussian Hussars, they're going to do a little bit more damage with carbines, with like a single volley. However, their reload is not as good. So I think you're going to want to like take one volley and then charge. With your Freikorps Hussars, they've got really good reloads, so they can just pepper units, sit there and pepper units and do it really quickly. Also, I think your Freikorps Hussars are going to be better in melee than the Prussian Hussars, because they've got a better charge bonus, they've got better stamina. They can also get around the battlefield a little faster with this speed. The drawbacks to them are going to be slightly lower morale than the Prussian Hussars, and it's going to take longer to get to the Freikorps Hussars than it will the Prussian Hussars. One thing, so in my opinion, if I wanted to go for Hussars, if I knew what I wanted from the very beginning, I would go with the Freikorps Provincial Cavalry, because the Freikorps Provincial Cavalry is just, in my opinion, better than the Prussian Provincial Cavalry, and I think the Freikorps Hussars are better than the Prussian Hussars. So I think there's definitely pros and cons to both, but generally speaking, I think the Freikorps Hussars are better. It will take a little longer to get to them because you're needing to get to 6 veterancy, but it will be they will be a slightly better unit overall. And last, we've got the Cuirassiers here, and let's compare the Cuirassiers to the Dragoons that they upgrade out of. You're going to have better morale, same unit count. Accuracy goes down, as does reload. These are not going to be great, like carbine cavalry units. If that is what you want, you probably keep the Dragoons. These guys are more melee focused than the Dragoons. So you get a bonus to your charge, you get an upgrade to your melee. Your stamina goes down a little bit, as does your speed. And it costs 4 veterancy to upgrade from the Prussian Dragoons. So with the Cuirassiers, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to throw them into a fight and just kind of let them get into that fight and just do damage with their high melee. Their low stamina is going to hurt a little bit, so it's a little bit contradictory with their melee, because their melee says, hey, I want to be in this fight and sit in a fight and just do a ton of damage there. But because of their low stamina, they're going to get tired kind of fast. So I think what you want to do with them is you want to get in, do a lot of damage with your melee. They're going to get tired, and then once that unit starts routing, you pull back your Cuirassiers, you let them rest and recover that stamina. So if we compare the Cuirassiers to the Hussars, Hussars are going to do a ton of damage on the charge. These guys are going to want to go in and break a unit. You probably want to charge them into wavering units and just have them break under the insane charge bonus of the Hussars. Their melee is not going to be great. You don't want them stuck in a fight. You want them run in, break a unit, maybe chase down that unit, make them shatter, and then pull them out and get ready to charge into the next unit. In my opinion, the Cuirassiers, these are going to be better for charging into maybe a unit that's holding steady. You can send the Cuirassiers in, you'll do pretty good on the charge, and then you'll have them do a bunch of damage to that unit while they're in melee. And then the Cuirassiers will break that unit. I think the other thing that the Cuirassiers are going to be good at is they're going to be good at countering Hussar type cavalry in a cavalry battle, because these guys are going to run in, and if the Hussars get stuck in that fight, the Cuirassiers are going to win because they've got better melee and they have a higher unit count. And I think the Hussars will do a lot of damage on the charge, but they're not going to put up a great fight once they're in the melee. And I think that they will quickly lose morale, which is lower than the Cuirassiers, and they will lose that battle. So yeah, those are my thoughts. Hussars, they're going to be fast, mobile, charge them into wavering units and have them break. The Cuirassiers, you're going to want to send them into units that are not necessarily close to breaking. I think they're also going to be useful for holding off cavalry charges. The one caveat I will say is that the Hussars can probably try to avoid the Cuirassiers with their speed. That's going to be what's going to keep them out of trouble. But if they do get locked into melee with the Cuirassiers, I think the Hussars are going to get eliminated. Lastly here, we're going to take a look at the artillery. So we've got the Prussian battalion artillery and the Freikorps battalion artillery. And we're going to go ahead and compare both of these. Your Prussian artillery is going to be better accuracy, a slower reload. It's going to have less stamina, less speed, but it's going to take less veterancy to get here. Whereas with your Freikorps, they're going to reload faster. They're not going to be as accurate. They will have more stamina, so they won't get tired as quickly, and they're going to be a little faster moving around. So they're going to be a little bit more mobile. Maybe you bring the Freikorps artillery and you give them canister, give them grape shot, and you advance them with your line infantry, and they can keep up a little bit better than can your Prussian artillery. However, it's going to take longer to turn a Freikorps recruit into artillery than is a Cantonist recruit. So you're going to be able to get to your Prussian artillery faster than your Freikorps artillery. The other drawback to your Freikorps artillery, sorry, I just noticed I have a little error here. The other drawback is that your Prussian artillery is going to be able to keep upgrading, whereas the Freikorps cannot. Once your Freikorps recruits are turned into artillery, this is it for them. That's as far as they go. Whereas your Prussian artillery, they are going to keep upgrading. And so what's really important here is you're going to get extra artillery. You're going to have 2 more guns added to your battery. You're going to have better accuracy. Reload will go down compared to the battalion artillery, as will your speed. But I think you're getting a big damage increase from having 2 extra guns doing damage and having better accuracy. And then lastly, if you want to, you can upgrade to horse artillery. So what's the difference between horse artillery and field artillery? Well, you're bringing the same amount of guns. You're going to lose a little accuracy converting to horse artillery. You're going to reload a little faster, and they're going to be able to move around more quickly. So if you like running ahead with your artillery, capturing a hill before the enemy can get there, your horse artillery are probably going to be better at that. I mean, actually, they're definitively going to be better at that than your field artillery, just because they move faster. Your field artillery, you're going to want to sit in the back and just shoot all day from far away. Your horse artillery, you want to move it, take a strategic position, and and you can have it keep pace with your line infantry, load up canister, grape shot, whatever, and just keep plugging away at enemy units. And they're going to reload faster, so they're going to be able to get more shots off, albeit a little more inaccurately. Whew, okay, that was a lot. I hope that all makes sense. Maybe if I were just to do a quick rundown of my thoughts, your Freikorps units, they're going to be better in melee. If you want melee units, you generally want to go with the Freikorps, unless you want to go all the way to Prussian Lifeguards. I mean, they are, sorry, not Prussian Lifeguards, the Prussian Veteran Grenadiers. These guys are fairly good. Not quite as good as the Freikorps Grenadiers, but you've got a better unit count and you've got better morale. So I feel like there's a pretty decent trade-off between these two. But generally speaking, you're going to want to go Freikorps, I think, if you want melee units. Your Cantonist units, they're going to be better at they're generally going to be better at shooting. They're especially going to have better morale. They might be worse at reloading than the Freikorps, but that's just how it goes. Yeah, those are my thoughts. I hope this was informative for everyone, and I've scrolled around a lot in my document, so if you want to look at any of the stats here for these units, you should be able to pause at just about any point in this video and take a look at them and maybe make comparisons of your own. But these are just my thoughts from looking at the stats. I think it makes sense. If you have any additional feedback, if you think, oh, well, you know what, Trigger, you're a dummy, because actually, Cantonist units are just so much better than Freikorps units at this or that. I mean, go ahead and let me know in the comments section. I'd love to hear your feedback. I know I didn't think of everything possible when comparing all these units. I just kind of talked about what I thought each was good at and what their role could be in your army. So hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe. Really appreciate you all watching. If you want to see more gameplay, I am thinking about doing another Prussia demo playthrough, but doing it on legendary mode, which means that there's a lot of difficulty modifiers, and I would turn those all on and play it. I'm currently doing a legendary playthrough on my own just to see if it'd be feasible, and I think it is. I think it is very feasible. You just kind of have to pick and choose your battles, and it takes a lot longer to snowball your army. But yeah, we'll see when I have the time to do that. Let me know if you'd be interested in that. Seeing a legendary playthrough, I would be more encouraged to do it if people want to see it, and you let me know. So thanks everybody, and we will see you in the next video.